Higher? Okay. Hank, watch out! The rope's gonna break!
If you also knew the family living at 1313 Mockingbird Lane as a kid, you definitely had an amazing childhood. We're talking about the Munsters, who looked like monsters at first, but weren't as monstrous as one may perceive. Even though the show only had 2 seasons and was aired about 6 decades ago, people still can't seem to forget about it. So here are the top 20 things you didn't know about the Munsters. Number 20. Voice of Raven was Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc, who is often celebrated as the man of 1,000 voices, was a legendary voice actor renowned for his incredible vocal versatility and talent. He played a significant role in bringing life to numerous iconic characters in cartoons, radio shows, and television programs, but not many people know that in The Munsters, it was Blanc who lent his voice to the character of Raven, who lived inside the family's cuckoo clock. I mean, how can one ever forget Raven's iconic Nevermore? The character plays a major role in the Munster household and provides the comedic highlights to the show. Instead of a typical bird popping out of the clock, a raven would emerge, evoking Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, The Raven. Blanc's vocal talent was pivotal in creating Raven's character, infusing it with humor and personality that added to the show's spooky yet lighthearted atmosphere. Blanc's contribution to the Munsters was just one of many in his illustrious career. He is best remembered for voicing beloved characters such as Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Barney Rubble, and many others in the Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera cartoons. His ability to bring distinct voices and personalities to each character was unparalleled, making him an indispensable figure in the world of animation and entertainment. His work on the Munsters, though a smaller role in comparison to some of his more prominent characters, showcased his adaptability and skill in giving life to yet another memorable and amusing personality in television history. Number 19. The first episode was different from the rest of the series. Did you know the original pilot episode of The Munsters was actually shot in color, while the rest of the series was all black and white? This pilot episode was titled My Fair Munster and showcased some notable differences from the familiar series that fans came to love. In this initial pilot, the roles of Lily and Eddie Munster were played by different actors compared to the subsequent episodes. The character Lily was initially played by actress Joan Marshall instead of Yvonne Dar Carlo. Not just that, Eddie Munster, rather than being portrayed by Butch Patrick, was played by child actor Nate Happy Dermott. In fact, there were other elements and character names that differed from the series that eventually aired on television. The network, CBS, wasn't entirely satisfied with this original pilot. No wonder they went on to change it. They made some significant changes, including recasting Lily and Eddie and altering certain aspects of the show to better match the tone and style they wanted for the show. This resulted in the reworking of the pilot and, ultimately, the creation of the version of The Munsters that audiences came to know and enjoy. Number 18. Herman Munster and Grandpa. Now, this one might surprise you. Before they became iconic as Herman Munster and Grandpa in The Munsters, Fred Gwyn and Al Lewis previously worked together in another popular TV show called Car 54, Where Are You? The show aired from 1961 to 1963 and revolved around the comedic exploits of 2 New York City police officers, played by Joe E. Ross and Fred Gwyn. In Car 54, Where Are You? Gwyn portrayed Officer Francis Muldoon, a good-natured but somewhat bumbling cop, while Al Lewis played Officer Leo Schnauzer, his eccentric and energetic partner. The chemistry between Gwyn and Lewis on this show was evident, and their collaboration laid a foundation for their later work on The Munsters. Their prior experience working together likely contributed to their natural rapport and dynamic when they were cast as Herman Munster and Grandpa in The Munsters. The familiarity and camaraderie between Gwyn and Lewis helped them portray the tight-knit family relationship that was central to the charm of the Munster household. And while we're talking about Grandpa, let us tell you another fact. Number 17. Grandpa's lab was designed by the same guy who designed the lab in Frankenstein. The connection between Grandpa's laboratory in The Munsters and the iconic laboratory from the 1931 film Frankenstein is quite intriguing. Kenneth Strickfaden, a renowned special effects artist responsible for creating the elaborate laboratory sets in Frankenstein, played a significant role in linking the two. Strickfaden, known for his innovative and elaborate electrical equipment setups in Frankenstein and other classic movies, was hired to work on the special effects crew for The Munsters. Given his expertise in creating elaborate high-tech laboratory settings, he designed and constructed Grandpa's laboratory for the show. Many of the props and gadgets used in Grandpa's lab on The Munsters were actually recycled or repurposed from the set pieces created for the 1931 Frankenstein film. This deliberate reuse of some props and elements, such as electrical equipment and lab apparatuses, established a direct connection between Grandpa's lab and the iconic lab in the Frankenstein movie, creating a subtle homage for fans of classic horror films. This link not only added an authentic and nostalgic touch to the Munster household, but also paid tribute to the legacy of the classic Universal monster movies, from which the Munsters drew inspiration and parody. Number 16. There were reasons behind the show being black and white. The Munsters was filmed in black and white for several reasons, primarily revolving around financial considerations and the desired atmospheric effect. Firstly, during the show's inception in the mid-1960s, shooting television series in color was significantly more expensive than filming in black and white. Color television was becoming more prevalent, but the technology and equipment required for color filming were still costly. As a result, many production companies opted for black and white due to its cost-effectiveness. Next, the choice of black and white lent a particular atmosphere and nostalgic feel to The Munsters. The show paid homage to classic horror films and the Universal Studios monster movies of the past, many of which were filmed in black and white. So, adopting this monochromatic style, the series sought to evoke the same eerie and gothic ambiance reminiscent of those classic horror films, adding a touch of nostalgia and authenticity to the show's visual aesthetics. Other than that, executives and creators were apprehensive that presenting the show's spooky and sometimes macabre characters in color might make it too intense or frightening for younger viewers. The black and white filming helped soften the impact of potentially disturbing elements and contributed to the overall comedic tone of the series. Using black and white filming, the Munsters effectively created a visual aesthetic that honored the iconic horror genre while allowing for a more lighthearted and comedic portrayal of its lovable monster family. Number 15. The show shared its debut with the Addams Family. The Munsters and the Addams Family both made their television debuts within the same week, which is often considered a curious coincidence in television history. The Munsters premiered with its first episode, Munster Masquerade, on September 24, 1964. Almost concurrently, the Addams Family aired its inaugural episode, The Addams Family Goes to School, on September 18, 1964, just 6 days prior. Both shows introduced audiences to eccentric, non-traditional families living unconventional lives, albeit with different comedic styles and character dynamics. This simultaneous debut of two similar-themed shows from different networks caught the attention of viewers and led to immediate comparisons between the two series. While both centered around bizarre and loving families existing outside societal norms, the Munsters had a comedic slant with a family of classic Universal Studios monsters, while the Addams Family portrayed a gothic household with an affectionate yet spooky atmosphere. Despite the similarities in themes and their close release dates, each show developed its unique following and distinguished itself through its specific brand of humor, characters, and storytelling. This coincidental debut of two iconic series led to ongoing discussions and debates among audiences about which one they preferred, and sparked enduring comparisons between the two. Even today, the Munsters and the Addams Family are often compared to each other. After all, both shows were icons in television history. Number 14. The shared debut was simply a coincidence. Interestingly, the TV networks behind these shows, CBS for the Munsters and ABC for the Addams Family, were not aware of each other's plans. This coincidence in their launch dates led to ongoing discussions among audiences and critics regarding the eerie timing and the contrasting yet strangely aligned premises of these two beloved TV series. Although they may have seemed inspired by each other due to their proximity and debut dates, in reality, both shows were independently created without direct influence from one another. But well, it worked in the favor of both shows, so no one had complaints. Number 13. Casting concerns about Dar Carlo were prevalent. Fred Gwyn and Al Lewis, who portrayed Herman Munster and Grandpa in The Munsters, initially had reservations and concerns regarding Yvonne Dar Carlo's casting as Lily Munster. These concerns did not stem from personal issues or animosity towards Dar Carlo, but rather from doubts about her acting background and potential compatibility with the show's comedic style. Both Gwyn and Lewis were apprehensive because Yvonne Dar Carlo, known for her beauty and acclaimed roles, had previously worked on more serious and dramatic projects, such as her role in The Ten Commandments in 1956. The actors were primarily focused on delivering a comedic performance. They were worried that Dar Carlo's dramatic acting background might not align with the Munsters' lighthearted and humorous tone. They were concerned that her past serious roles might conflict with the show's comedic approach, impacting the chemistry among the cast. However, as the show progressed, Yvonne Dar Carlo showed her talent and adaptability, effectively blending in with the ensemble and proving her comedic timing and versatility. Over time, any initial concerns Gwyn and Lewis had about Dar Carlo's casting were gone. She became an integral part of the show's success, and the show would seem incomplete without her. Number 12. The Munsters comic books. The TV show The Munsters became so popular that people wanted things like toys and stuff with the Munsters on them. But there were several problems when it came to making comic books about the show. There was a rule that said comic books couldn't have vampires in them, and the Munsters had a vampire character. There was this company called Gold Key Comics that didn't have to follow the same rules as the others. They saw this problem as a chance to make the Munsters comic books. Between 1965 and 1968, they published 16 Munsters comic books. These comics were cool because they had color pictures of the actors from the show on the covers. Inside, they had pictures taken from the TV series. So even though there was a rule saying vampires couldn't be in comic books, Gold Key Comics made the Munsters comics anyway. This allowed the fans to enjoy more Munster stories in comics. Number 11. There was a strange age difference between the actors. It might come as a surprise that Al Lewis, the actor who played Grandpa in The Munsters, was actually younger than Yvonne Dar Carlo, who portrayed Lily Munster, his on-screen daughter. And even more strangely, both Lewis and Dar Carlo were younger than Fred Gwyn, who brought Herman Munster to life. This unique age dynamic stands in contrast to their roles on the show, underscoring how makeup and acting techniques can transform actors of various ages into convincing characters despite the actual age differences among the cast members. Number 11. The creative duo. Joe Connolly and Bob Mosher, the creative minds behind the beloved family sitcom Leave It to Beaver, also conceptualized The Munsters. Drawing from their own experiences as fathers with 6 children combined, they aimed to create a sitcom showcasing a relatable blue-collar family living in the suburbs. However, their twist was presenting this family as monstrous, infusing a supernatural element into everyday family values, much like their previous successful work. Number 10. Dar Carlo wasn't so easygoing. While Yvonne Dar Carlo, who played Lily Munster, exhibited great chemistry with her fellow cast members on screen, things were different when the camera wasn't rolling. It's said that when off-camera, she tended to keep to herself between filming. Reports from the set suggested that she often stayed in her trailer and frequently requested adjustments to her hair, makeup, and nails, causing delays during production. This insistence on changes led to frustration among some of the cast and crew. Throughout the show's 2-year duration, she reportedly went through multiple stylists, contributing to tensions behind the scenes. Number 9. Marilyn's character was portrayed by 2 actors. In the TV series The Munsters, Marilyn, the family's normal niece, was initially portrayed by Beverly Owen. Beverly Owen was part of the cast for the first 13 episodes of the show. However, despite her dedication to the role, Owen felt homesick and desired to be closer to her fiancé who lived on the East Coast. This led her to request an early release from her contract. Upon Beverly Owen's departure, the producers sought a replacement to seamlessly continue Marilyns' character. Pat Priest was chosen as her successor. She took on the role, stepping into Marilyns' character's shoes and appearing in the remaining episodes of the series. Despite the change in actresses, the show's creators aimed to maintain consistency in Marilyns' appearance and personality. The transition between Owen and Priest happened smoothly within the storyline, allowing the character's essence to remain unchanged despite the shift in casting. This continuity ensured that Marilyns' role within the Munster family and her interactions with other characters remained consistent throughout the series. Number 8. Pat Priest's selection had a reason. Pat Priest got chosen to play Marilyn in The Munsters partly because she looked a lot like Beverly Owen, who played Marilyn before her. Not only were they close in height and size, but they also looked alike in other ways. This helped the show keep things the same for Marilyns' character, so they didn't have to change her clothes or spend more money on making her look different. It made the switch from one actress to another feel smooth, and made sure Marilyn still seemed like the same person. Number 7. The popularity was amazing. The Munsters became really popular, and because of that, they made lots of stuff you could buy based on the show. They had toys, games, lunchboxes, cards to trade, and more with the characters from the show on them. People liked the characters so much that they wanted to have things with them on it. There was also a cartoon pilot they made called The Mini Munsters. It was for kids, and showed the Munster family as little versions of themselves. This cartoon version was all about their adventures, and it was meant to be funny and not scary like the show. But after they made the first episode, the producers decided to cancel it and didn't make any more episodes. Number 6. Fred Gwyn had several problems. Fred Gwyn, who played Herman Munster, had a tough time physically when he acted in the show. The costume he wore as Herman was quite heavy and included lots of makeup, a padded suit, and foam rubber pads to make him look like the iconic Frankenstein monster. Putting on the makeup alone took several hours, and wearing those foam rubber pads under his costume made it even heavier and more uncomfortable for him during filming. Because of the heavy costume, the makeup, and the hot lights in the studio, Gwyn felt a lot of strain on his body. The outfit and makeup were so big and hot that they made it tough for him to move freely, and it got really hot, making it hard for him to act comfortably for a long time. Despite all these challenges, Gwyn didn't give up. He pushed through and gave a fantastic performance as Herman Munster, which played a big part in making the show a success. Number 5. Bert L was offered Grandpa's role. Bert L, who is celebrated for his comedic timing and unforgettable performance as the Cowardly Lion in the classic film The Wizard of Oz, was initially approached for the role of Grandpa in the iconic TV series The Munsters. As a seasoned actor renowned for his versatility and talent, L was a considerable choice for bringing the character of the vampire patriarch to life. However, despite the opportunity to portray another eccentric and entertaining character, L decided against taking on the role. The specific reasons for declining the part remain a matter of speculation and haven't been explicitly documented. It's conceivable that L might have had other commitments, artistic differences, or personal reasons influencing his decision to turn down the role. Ultimately, Bert L's decision not to join the Munsters paved the way for Al Lewis to step into the role of Grandpa. Al Lewis infused the character with his own unique flair, endearing himself to audiences with his quirky and humorous portrayal, becoming an integral part of the beloved Munster family. Number 4. Eddie Munster was cast again. In the TV show The Munsters, the character Eddie Munster, who is a werewolf and the son of the Munster family, is also played by 2 different actors. Initially, Happy Durman portrayed Eddie in the pilot episode, but the executives didn't like how wolf-like he seemed in the role. So Butch Patrick replaced Durman when the series was picked up. Later on in the 80s, there was a film called The Munsters' Revenge, where the original cast returned, but a different actor, K.C. Martel, played the role of Eddie Munster. Number 3. Designer from Frankenstein. The TV show The Munsters had a special effects designer who previously worked on the 1931 movie Frankenstein. The show was initially aired on CBS but was distributed by NBC Universal Television Distribution. This allowed the Munsters to use characters inspired by Universal's classic monster movies. Because of this connection to iconic monsters like Frankenstein, Dracula, and others, viewers found it easier to relate to the Munsters compared to the Addams Family. Additionally, the sets in The Munsters might look familiar to audiences because they were designed to resemble those from the classic Universal monster movies. Number 2. The hot rod car was made by George Barris. Remember the Munsters hot rod car? That was ordered from George Barris, known for his custom-made cars. He was the car maker behind the famous Batmobile from the 1966 Batman series. Barris called the hot rod car he made for the show the Munster Coach. It was made out from Model T bodies and a stretched 1927 touring car. Apparently, he didn't give the studio its ownership and only rented it out to be used in the Munsters. And whenever it wasn't being used, he'd take it for car shows. Number 1. There was another car. The Munster Coach was a hit, and fans loved it. Because of this, the show producers ordered another car from Barris, but this time it was for Grandpa. This new car was named Dragula. Dragula featured a 289 cubic inch Ford Mustang engine, and it looked like a casket, and it's said that it wasn't easy to get the casket for Barris. He had to go to several funeral parlors because he wanted to buy a real casket for the car, but they wouldn't sell it to anyone unless there was someone dead who actually needed it. He finally got one because it was broken, but even then the owner wasn't selling it. He made a fellow put some money in an envelope for the casket and take it away while he went for a walkout with the owner, so he practically stole it but paid for it as well. And with that, we are done for today. The Munsters was an incredible show, and even today we find something interesting in it for everyone. We'll be back with more amazing videos. Keep watching for more.